Hey everybody, it is Romania Black, and we are on episode 7 of Sasaki to Miyano. Sasaki and Miyano. I'll be honest, I've taken like a solid week off from watching Sasaki and Miyano. I was out of town, but I'm back, and I'm ready to dive into this episode. We're halfway through this season already. It's really sad. And so Sasaki has put the ball into Miyano's court. Miyano is trying to figure out what his actual feelings are. Does he really like Sasaki in a romantic way, like he'd want to date him? Are they just friends? He's asked for more time to come up with a more concrete answer, which is nice. And Sasaki's like, I have a chance then. Sure. So take all the time you need, Miyano. But it's already been a year since they've known each other, which is crazy. I like the idea of how time works in this series. I like the idea that it has taken them a solid amount of time to build this relationship with one another. I like that about it. It's really nice. And so I'm curious to know this episode. We're now entering the second half of the season, right? We've spent the first half setting up these characters. We've set up that Sasaki likes Miyano. That Sasaki didn't really even know for sure that he liked guys until he met Miyano. But he is all in on Miyano. So he's like, what can I do? I like the guy. So now it's in Miyano's court. And I like that there's this contrast of Sasaki, who didn't realize that he liked guys, but he likes Miyano, and so he's like, okay, this is just how I am, and he's totally chill with it. Whereas Miyano is very much focused on how people view him, so the way that he's trying to rationalize it and understand how he feels is a bit different than Sasaki. And so I like that. It's showing two different ways that people can go about exploring their sexuality and exploring how they feel about others, and it's totally fine. So we've had some really good comments in the comment section about this series so far, and I'm really happy now that we're at the halfway point. Where is that going to go from here? So that's the big question, right? So I was requested by Seth Mary and September Scanlations, who thank you for giving us these awesome scans for these episodes. I have been, since episode 5, putting down in the description or in the comment section how you can get a hold of September Scanlations and their version of the scans for this episode, because it is a little bit different than Funimation and Crunchyroll. I appreciate these files because they don't lag, so it's great. I don't have to watch and worry about it like pausing and buffering. Thank you. So thanks again. But yeah, I've spent a week off. I'm ready to dive back in and see what our beautiful boys are up to, right? So let's not waste any more time. Let's just dive right in and see. So we are going to start Sasaki and Miyano episode 7. And we are going to start that here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh, it was so cute. That was so precious. Oh my gosh. Okay, we need to go back through this episode. We need to go back through it. I'm going to turn the sound off on this and go back through it. Oh my gosh. Oh, Sasaki, honey. Sasaki. I'm not usually a fan of the jealous boyfriend trope. That's the one trope that I'm always kind of like in BL, and even in romance in general. It doesn't have to be BL, but in romance in general, the jealous boyfriend trope, it always weirds me out, because in real life, I've had friends that have dated guys. I've not had friends that have dated girls that have done this, but I've had friends that have dated guys. And in those scenarios where the boyfriend is like, oh, well, I don't want you to be around this person because you might have feelings for them, it's like, roll your eyes. It's I don't like that at all. And so when I see that trope in fiction, it's oftentimes problematic to me. I'm like, but you can be friends. But I do think that the way that it resolves itself is a lot better than probably any BL I've read so far. So we'll talk about that. I was like, okay, Sasaki, I'm feeling you. And I'm glad that he communicates with Miyano and they talk it out. And it's not just, I don't want you around other girls. One of those situations. It doesn't end up being like that at all. And I appreciate that, and that the show does the right thing with it. And Sasaki kind of realizes, he's like, I did this impulse move in the moment, and I probably shouldn't have done that, but here we are. So I'm glad that they settled that. But so the cultural festival. Of course we're having a cultural festival, because it's a slice of life romance story, and every slice of life romance has a cultural festival if it's a high school. And so they're doing a drag pageant. Right. And so I that Miyano at first, Miyano does not see it. I'm surprised Miyano's first thought wasn't, I'm going to be the one picked. Because again, Miyano likes to think of himself as a more manly person, even though he is very self-conscious. And so his first thought, of course, is like, this has been in a BL manga before. This is a trope. Okay, like, interesting. And then I just love that as soon as he goes to Hirano, Hirano's like, dear God, help me. I know exactly what is going to be. I know exactly what has happened. I love Hirano in this. God, kill me now. And so, yeah, we get past the OP. So, the president here, we actually get things with him. And the episode's called I Don't Want to Make Him Uncomfortable, which we finally get the title drop at the end. I have been wanting to see more of the president this entire series, and here he is. He's voiced by the same voice actor as Ash from Banana Fish. Uchida voices Ash from Banana Fish, and Fushiguro from Jujutsu Kaisen, and Uenoyama from Given. Those three that I really, really love. I definitely hear Ash in his voice in this episode. I don't so much hear Uenoyama or Fushiguro, but as soon as he started talking and got all like gleeful, I was like, oh, that's Ash. Absolutely. And I love it. He's so weird. He's such an odd character. So the president comes in, and Miyano, of course, is down in the dumps because he got picked to be the representative for his class for the drag pageant. And Hirano, I like Hirano in this because Hirano can see that Miyano is uncomfortable. And he's like, look, Miyano, if you don't want to do it, then just tell him you can't and you don't feel comfortable. Like, you are well within your right. And, well, his actual words is, you should have dug your heels in with the same vigor you summoned to annoy me about my dorm life and turn them down. Yeah, so Hirano's like, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. You have the right to say no. You shouldn't succumb to peer pressure. And I like that Hirano's very serious. He has that little biting sarcasm, but I like that Hirano is serious. He's like, look, you don't have to do this, Miyano, if you don't want to. But of course, Miyano feels obligated, right? And so I like that while all this is going on, the president is like pulling out the same slime manga that I think Oga's girlfriend was into. He just like pulls out, he's like, And I like they give us like the blurred image and it has like the not for 18 on there. Like, what? And then Miyano's like, well, these are two entirely different matters. And he's like, how is it any different? And he's like, and the president says, oh, you mean the beauty pageant? And that is the beauty pageant. And they're like, what? He's like, the cultural festival prep committee revealed to the student council their deepest, darkest fetishes when they demanded permission to put on that show. And the president, like, what the hell? Him like scrunching, I want to take a picture of that. Like scrunching the stuffed animal on the screen. The president, when he actually opens his eyes and we see his eyes, is quite terrifying, for the record. Like, I'm getting like yandere vibes. The council president was so freaked out. Just remembering his face has me in stitches. He's a bit odd. Our president that Ash voices is a bit odd. He has some, I feel like he's super kinky. Like, you know, there's that BL character that has kinks. That it's not Oga. Oga's a hot mess. There's no kinks. Oga's probably the most vanilla guy. He's just a hot mess express. The president, the quiet ones. It's the quiet ones you gotta watch out for. And he's been quiet this entire season. And the one episode where he talks the most, he's kind of freaky. I'm fine with it. I like his character a lot after this episode, but I'm like, we need to watch out for you. And Hirano just is like, you're very easily amused, aren't you? As he's sitting there playing with the toy. And Miyano's freaked out. And he's like, that's not the face of someone who's easily amused. That's the face of a sadist. Yeah, Miyano sees the writing on the wall. Hirano's like, you're kind of odd. And Miyano's like, no, he's terrifying. I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm like, yes, please. And so, yeah, the president brings up, like, you hate cross-dressing. And, of course, Miyano says, well, I'm going to help my classmates just this once. And then, so the president's like, oh, so you probably had a change of heart. Maybe you've fallen in love. I think the president knows. He's been watching this entire time. I think he knows that Miyano and Sasaki have interest in each other, and he's just not wanting to outright say it because, of course, Miyano, when he hears that, is like, ah! And okay, so the word for love, koi, has the same pronunciation as the word for carp, koi, and he's like, no, that's not it at all. Yeah, he's like, oh, I see. But yeah, I like that Miyano is just sitting there having this moment, like, why are we doing something out of a BL? This is an all-boys school. Like, he's having this great moment. Like, they draw him so wonderfully. Like, he's animated so well. Where he's just like, oh, it's just like a BL. And so then they're like, okay, I've tallied all the votes. At times like this, I'm glad to be a Fujon, like a BL fanboy. And that's when they say it's going to be Miyano as the rep. And it's like, what did you expect? And he says, absolutely not. Beefy buff guys are way more suited for cross-dressing. Because it's the contrast, right? I'm assuming that's what Miyano is saying. He's like, I'm not ready for this. And the class president's like, well, we want to win, so you're our only chance. Those assholes in Class A said that we Class B guys have average looks, so we can't win. It has to be you. I also like here that Toshiro and Kurosawa said they'll support you as an alternate. And of course, Kurosawa's like, my girlfriend is going to be all about this. I'm in, right? And they say they're not going to make him too girly, but they instantly go back on that when they start talking about the outfits. And I like that Miyano is like, at least I'm not alone. At least my friends are supporting me. And that's really nice. I like that Miyano's like, well, I have my friends' support, so maybe this will be okay. I like that. I like that he's confident with that. And of course, Kurosawa's like, my girlfriend will love this, so totally on board. I wonder if they'll dress Kurosawa up too, since he's the alternate. And then, yeah. And then Toshiro was like, I'll help too. Mm-hmm. And so I like this where Miyano says, I feel I'm not as sensitive as before. Like, Miyano in the past years had some growth. And I think it's because his friends have been supporting him and because Sasaki has been supporting him. That Miyano feels less sensitive and less prone to, like, peer pressure remarks. And he talks about how he's not sensitive about his face anymore. And so Kurosawa and Toshiro being there has relieved a lot of the pressure. But then his mind goes to Sasaki, who's talking about like, well, maybe you'll look completely different and it won't matter. You're still you and I still love you for who you are. And he has that distinct memory. And he's like, why did I remember that? What's going on? And I like that the president seems to know exactly what's happening. Like, he's trying not to laugh. The president's like, oh my God, are you thinking about Sasaki right now? And like, he knows. And Hirano's like, and I like that the president pulls it off. It's look how poofy his hair is. Like, his hair is just poofed out of embarrassment. But I think the president knows. I think he knows what's up. Because, yeah, they're playing Old Maid. And the moment Sasaki shows up, he's like, oh, gotta go. Here, take my hand. I was winning, but gotta go. Like, come on. Like, he is playing Wingman for Sasaki and Miyano for sure. I'm positive about it. And Hirano's just going along with it because he sees it right now. Nothing's wrong with the situation. But he's like watching Sasaki, making sure everything goes all right. You know. So he says, sounds like a generic lineup of uniforms you might see on some DVDs that they would be watching. And I was like, oh, so that's where they got their ideas from. Oh. And then I like that the president acknowledges, like, should I bring any women's clothing in? And Miyano's like, do you have some? And the president, he's like, yeah, I do. And Miyano questions, he's like, is he into drag? Does he like dressing like a woman? And his eyes kind of get dark there for a second. And the president's like, oh, no. I have an older sister. They're not mine. And I like that. I like in the background, there's just fruit. There's fruit. But then he says, my big sis is quite the otaku and has a sizable collection of interesting garments. I'm going to hope that interesting garments is appropriate for cultural festival. Because the way he had like the slime manga earlier, I'm like, Miyano, I don't know if you should trust him. But Miyano assumes that interesting garments means she's a cosplayer. And so I am fully predicting, I'm going to call it now, that the president's sister, who's the otaku, is going to dress Miyano up as like a maid. Like maid cafe style with the big frilly bow, the big black skirt and everything, the frills. He's going to dress her up like a maid. He's going to dress Miyano up like a maid. I'm just going to say it now, probably. And Sasaki's going to lose his mind. Just going to say he's going to be so cute that Sasaki's going to lose his mind. And so, yeah, they're going through that box of lost and found things, and they find the pack of cards. And then he's like, we're gonna decide who has to lock up the committee room by playing Old Maid. And I like that Hirano's like, why? Why can't we just decide? Why do we have to play a card game? You just want to play cards. And Sasaki's like, man, it's late. I'm going home late, as per usual. I get up early so I can see Miyano. I'm leaving late so I can see Miyano because, look, the disciplinary committee is still here. Wonder if Miyano is. And then, again, I think that the president is the wingman because he is clearly winning Old Maid. At least I think that's how you win Old Maid, is you run out of cards. And he gives Sasaki the cards and is like, oh, gotta go, bye. And then not long after, Hirano leaves as well. And so it's like, you guys are just setting them up to be together. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, Hirano's like, it's not our fault that the president was having a really good game. And so, yeah, then Miyano loses the card game. And we go from there. So, yeah, I like that we have this banter between Sasaki and Miyano. And Hirano, like, decides that that's the time I should leave so you guys can walk back together and have, you know, your happy alone time. And so, yeah, and Sasaki, because he likes Miyano, is like, no, I like spending time with you. It's fine. I don't mind taking the long way home with you. That's the point, right? And he even admits it to him right here. He's like, no, I didn't need to see the teacher or anything. I just wanted to spend time with you because I love you. And Miyano's like, I love how much blushing. He's like, we're at school. You can't do that. I love the contrast from Given, because if you've watched the series Given, there's lots of scenes between these two characters at high school. And it's kind of funny how it's paralleling it just a little bit. But it's funny because in both scenarios, the dark-haired boy is the one that's like, we're in school right now. And so he goes back to his, which it looks like Given in the manga. The manga that he has looks like Given as well, even though it's not. The cover is not. But it's funny because Miyano's like, I can't keep making everything that I do a BL. Senpai and I are not some BL couple. And I like that he says that. Miyano doesn't know what to do. He's like, here's the thing. He says, we're not some BL couple. He doesn't say we're not a couple. He says we're not a BL couple. So it's like subconsciously, Miyano is slowly entertaining the idea that him and Sasaki could date. Slowly but surely. And he doesn't know how to handle this, so he goes to his BL manga thinking maybe there's a scenario that will help him understand. But then he gets frustrated because he's like, well, we're not a BL couple, so how is this helping? I love it. He says, if I tried... No. I love, he's like, I've got to think of some other way to decide. Anything but that. I can't apply BL to everything. And I like that. I like that Miyano is being somewhat realistic and saying, as much as I love BL, it is not my problem solver for everything. I need to be realistic about this and come at it from a genuine way, not just looking at my manga for answers. I like that. I like that Miyano is trying to be realistic. And so, yeah. And then I like that Miyano takes the initiative to walk home with Sasaki. Because in every scenario in this show so far, in every scenario, this really came out of nowhere for me. Sasaki has always been the one to follow Miyano home. Sasaki's always been the one to be like, hey, can I follow you home? Hey, can I go here? Hey, can I do this? He's always been the one to initiate the walk home. And I think this is the first time that Miyano actually asks to walk home with Sasaki. So I think that's really cool. It shows a lot of growth for Miyano. And then they get started to talk about the manga and the authors that they like. And he's like, the very first one you lent me was from this same author, right? And he's like, oh yeah. And I love this conversation that they have with one another. I'm sorry, but that face, I gotta go back. That face that Sasaki makes, it's like the most handsome thing in the world. Take a photo of that. It's like, it's so damn soft and kind of sensual. He's like, Like our poor boy Sasaki, he is whipped. A lot of you said in the comments, you're like, Sasaki is whipped. It's like, chow. He is there for Miyano. Full steam ahead. Miyano just hasn't caught up yet. And so then Miyano, this shows a little bit of growth too, because Sasaki said he was going to loan the manga that he borrowed to his sister. And Miyano does not have a full-fledged freak out. He's not like, oh no, the outside world reading our BL series. Instead he phrases it a little bit different. He doesn't say that it's wrong. He tells Sasaki that everyone has different tastes. So if people aren't into that, then they might be surprised by it in an unpleasant way. They might be, they might find it offensive or they might not like it. And Miyano doesn't want that awkward uncomfortableness to happen. And I like that Sasaki's like, oh yeah, I was pretty blindsided when I first read it, but I ended up liking it. Miyano's like, oh God, I'm so sorry. He's like, but I found out about this manga that I like through you, and it got me started to talking to you. So of course I'm happy that it happened. And Miyano's like, why is he always so... And he doesn't finish the sentence, but it's like he's so accepting and kind to Miyano. And that's when he says, I feel the same. I'm happy to have someone I can discuss my interests with. And it's so sweet. He thanks him. It's really cute. They're grateful for each other. It's like, oh, I love it. It's the most wholesome thing. And so then Sasaki goes in to grab a drink. After this scene, Sasaki's never going to let him have a drink alone. I'm joking. But then we find out that his middle school friend that he thought he liked, Makimura, she shows up. Makimura from middle school. And I like that she is the artiste. She has like the green in her hair. She has all the artistic supplies. She has like the asymmetrical cut with her bangs. And she seems like a nice person. She doesn't seem like awful at all. She's very persistent to have Miyano pose for her, but Miyano's really cute and really handsome. So she's like, you'll be the perfect model. You're a good looking guy. But after she's seen Sasaki, I have a feeling that Makimura is going to try to get Sasaki to pose for her instead. Because when Sasaki had that jealous boyfriend look, she was like, I need to sketch it. Like, relatable, right? So, here's the thing. Makimura, when her friends come over, they make the snide comment. They're like, oh, is that your boyfriend you're talking to? It's like, ha, ha, ha. She doesn't get blushy at all. She's just like, oh no, I'm trying to get him to model for my painting. She doesn't seem to be romantically interested in Miyano anymore. And she even notes, she's like, that's twice I've struck out with you. But when she said I've struck out with you, at first I thought, oh, she tried to ask him out and he said no. And this time she's asking him to model and he said no. But that's not it. What it was, Miyano's like, twice. She says, back in middle school, I wanted you to dress up as a girl and model for me, but you refused. And Miyano's like, oh! Because he tore her down like from the start. Like he liked her. He maybe had a romantic feeling towards her. And the moment she asked him to cross-dress, he took it this one way and it completely shut him down from her. When she wasn't even asking him out or anything. She wanted him to model because she thought he could pull it off. And he's like, that's what you meant. And she's like, what did you think? He was like, oh, crud. He's like, I thought she was trying to tease me by having me dress up as a girl for pictures, but she was just wanting a model. Oh. She's like, back then you had really youthful features and you could pull off the look of either a boy or a girl. So I just wanted you to model for me because it was convenient. And he's like, huh. So I like that. I like that we established that she really didn't have any romantic feelings towards him at all, seemingly. She just wanted a model and he turned her down twice. And Miyano realizing that maybe that crush he had wasn't really there. Because he notes it doesn't feel like how he feels talking with Sasaki. It's not that same feeling, right? So I like that she says his build is a lot more masculine now. So I was trying to think of what girls' clothes would suit you the best. I have a feeling she's going to help them dress up for the cultural festival too. She's going to maybe get involved with this. Probably something to cover the more manly parts like your arms and chin. He said no. And she's like, you've gotten taller too. And in the flashback, she is taller than him, even though he denies it. So that's really funny that he's like, you're not taller. You were never taller than me. It's like, I'm firm on that, he says. And so she's like, I guess this is what it means to be in a pissing contest, huh? And she's just joking with him. Like they're just having jokes. And he says, it's weird. She's like, there's no contest. We're having a normal conversation. I was so worked up about it before. Maybe it's because. And he keeps going back to that of what Senpai said to me. So yeah, Miyano realizing that how he feels talking to her is not the same emotions he has when he talks to Sasaki. And this is again maybe showing that he's realizing, oh, maybe the way I feel about Sasaki is a little bit more romantic because I feel a different way when I talk with him than I do with her right now. And I don't have these feelings towards her. So what is that saying, right? It's like he's trying to rationalize and she tries to do the hand thing. And I don't think she meant anything by it. I think she was being totally innocent. But from her perspective, she's like, oh, we're just comparing hands to show how much more manly Sasaki's hand or Miyano's hand has gotten. We'll talk about Sasaki's hands. How much more manly Miyano's hands have gotten. Again, from Sasaki's perspective, our poor whipped boy, he thought Oga was going in for the head pat. And here he thinks that she's going in to lock hands together. And he's like, no. And it is a little, she's like, your features have gotten way more masculine. And he does grab the hand. It's like, oh, it's very BL. It is a very BL trope moment. But his face, where he's like, don't. And she's like, oh, I gotta sketch that. Again, that face. Oh my God. I love it. I mean, I was like, what? And he drags him away. And I like that the vision on the screen gets blurry in that moment. Like, oh my God. And he's like, oh, sorry, Makimura, I gotta go. And at first, you think it's a misdirect, because at first you think that she's gonna be upset or mad or jealous that Sasaki took Miyano away. That's what Sasaki thinks. But no. She's like, I've got to draw that. What was that face? It's the face of a jealous man. Oh my God. And her blush. So yeah, I like Makimura a lot. She's not, from the start, when we first were introduced to her in the flashback, you think she's going to be like the jealous ex-girlfriend vibes, the one that's going to try to get between him and Sasaki and break him up. But no, she never had any feelings seemingly for Miyano. She just wanted him to pose for her. It was platonic. And Miyano's realizing that he used to like her, but he doesn't feel that way now. And Sasaki just takes it all the wrong way. So, and I like the screen just blurs and everything. It's almost like Sasaki is like just so frustrated. And I like that when he lets go of his hand, he's like, I'm sorry, barging in your conversation. And Miyano's like, I mean, we were pretty much done. She was just going to try to compare hands. The conversation was pretty much over. And Sasaki's like, ugh. They draw him so good in this episode. Take another photo. I'm just going to have a Twitter post of just Sasaki expressions. Just Sasaki expressions. That's it. They draw him so well in this, though. It's like, really, show? How? And so that girl, she's the one you liked, wasn't she? Sasaki knew the whole time. He knew that she was the one. And Miyano was like, oh, yeah. And that look where he's just like, it's her, isn't it? And Miyano's like, well, he says, she's the girl that I used to like. But I realized I don't feel that way anymore. And Sasaki's like, and then just like the relief, he's like, oh God, I see. I'm like, Sasaki, my dude, you were hopeless. Hopeless. And then of course he has like oh my God, I'm so thankful that you aren't still attached to her. I like that and then of course he gets embarrassed. He's like, I'm so sorry. I hurt you, didn't I? Just grabbing your hand like that. And Miyano's like, well, no. And I like that this, from Miyano's perspective and Sasaki's perspective, Miyano is like, I'm a guy too. It'll take more than that to hurt me. Miyano's like, I'm not a delicate flower. I'm not a girl. I'm not something that is going to break easily in your mind. So not that that's true, but Miyano's like, no, I'm a guy. I'm tough. It's fine. But Sasaki, being the king of all kings, is like, no, it's not about whether you're a guy or a girl. Shattering gender norms are Sasaki. Him saying it's not the fact of your gender, it's the fact that you're supposed to treat a person you like with care. And I didn't do that. I just grabbed you and ran off with you. It doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl. I shouldn't have done that. I should have been nicer and trusted you and not have drug you away. And I'm like, that forgives him in my mind for that scene, because I'm normally not like the jealous boyfriend trope, but the moment where he admits, he's like, I goofed. I did wrong. I shouldn't have treated you that way. I'm sorry. I'm like, okay, Sasaki. And Miyano's reaction, where he's like, oh, just that blush. I want to picture that too. Just that blush where he's like, you're treating me like a person regardless of my gender. And Saki's like, oh my God. He's like, when you say things like that out of the blue, it's really embarrassing. It's like, oh, Miyano, you love that. You love it. And then he's like, shit, we missed the train. These guys running in and ruining every scene. They've been like the interrupters of this whole season so far. Just, and then it's just moment ruined. Moment's over. Time to go home. You know, like you do. And I like that Sasaki, he's like, what I just did now, that wasn't meant to put pressure on you or anything. And Miyano's like, I know. It's fine. And then they just walk on. I love that. I love that Sasaki apologizes. Like, I don't want you to feel like you need to be pressuring to answer me. And Miyano's like, no, it's okay. So then we have this conversation about the hands where Miyano's like, my hands are more masculine, huh? My hands are manly now? Awesome. And I love that moment where he puts them down, like slowly puts it next to Sasaki's hand. Sasaki's hand is freaking enormous. They're huge. He's like, I was feeling so good about myself and my manly hands. And I put them next to Sasaki's and they were giant, giant baseball mitts. So, you know. I like that Sasaki has this like part-time job at the bakery, and we find out it's a family bakery. We find out that it's not just a part-time job that he's doing on his own. It's part of the family business, the bakery is, and that he's taking out the trash behind the bakery. That's really cool. That Sasaki's nice like that. And I like him with his bandana, and he takes his piercings out of his ears. So you note that. And so Sasaki talking to himself, being like, so Mia-chan was in love with that girl. Now, he says was in love with that girl, but Miyano is like, I used to like. Used to like and was in love with. I view those on two different levels. I view that if you used to like somebody, it's more like a crush, and it's not really a deep romantic physical love. It's just like I had a crush on them. I used to like them. Was in love with is a much more deeper, intimate thing. And Sasaki is taking it to the extreme because he was jealous. So, and he doesn't know, right? But we know from Miyano's thoughts that he's like, well, I used to like her, but it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't think it's love, like Sasaki phrases it. And Sasaki's saying, I don't remember what she looked like. And then, of course, everybody wishing him good morning. But Sasaki trying to remember, like, she was smaller than him. Though it's hardly surprising seeing as Miyano's a guy. And so then Miyano tells a story about how they sat next to each other and how she was easy to talk to and all that. But you feel kind of that Sasaki feels a little bit of self-consciousness here. That, oh, well, if Miyano was in love with her and she's smaller than him to make him seem masculine, where does that put me? Like, I'm taller than him and I'm a bigger guy than him and I'm not feminine really at all. So am I the type of person that Miyano would like? I feel like that in that moment, Sasaki's like, am I the type of person that Miyano would be attracted to? And he doesn't think that he is in that moment. And that's kind of sad because Sasaki doesn't realize that Miyano really didn't love her. And so Sasaki's saying, I guess the fact that he told me about it means everything is settled in Mia-chan's mind now. But even if he doesn't have feelings for her anymore, the idea that she might still have feelings for him, that's where he gets frustrated. It really irritates me. Like, he's just jealous. The idea that someone else, it goes back to the chocolates on Valentine's Day. The idea that someone else could like Miyano other than him frustrates him. Because right now, Sasaki's like, I've admitted that I love him, but what if someone else is in love with him too and admits it to Miyano and Miyano chooses them over me? He's like, I confessed first, damn it. So I understand where Sasaki's coming from. It's frustrating because he's like, what if Miyano ends up choosing someone else besides me? And I'm the one that confessed first. What do we do? And he's like, I need to get over this. The new semester's about to start. He's like, I need to start fresh. I need to just get a new mindset. And that's when Kurosawa meets up with Sasaki. I'm really sad that Sasaki didn't go meet the girlfriend. I'm really sad. I hope that they meet because I want to see Oga's girlfriend. I want to see Kurosawa's girlfriend. And I'm a little bit disturbed by how upbeat Kurosawa is about visiting his girlfriend in the hospital. He's like, the hospital my girlfriend has been admitted to is nearby. Haha. And Sasaki's like, what hospital? And so then Kurosawa says he left his notebook with her and explains all of that. Also, let it be known, Sasaki can rock a white t-shirt. Let it be known. But Sasaki didn't know that his girlfriend was in the hospital. And so they talk about like the jobs and everything and what's going on and about him pitching in. And so then I still am sad. And Kurosawa says, I wonder if Miyano knows about this. Like, Kurosawa has gathered the tea so he can go spill it to Miyano later, right? And so Sasaki, I feel like Sasaki is trying to get a rundown of how Kurosawa treats his relationship, because he's like, okay, well, if I'm in a relationship with Miyano, how's this going to work? So I feel like he's questioning, how often does Kurosawa visit her? What is their relationship like? He's trying to get some just like intel, not only to learn about Kurosawa, but to just see how this relationship works, because every relationship's different, right? And so he talks to him about it, about the club activities, and though I didn't visit much after the fight. And then he apologizes for the fight from last year, and Sasaki's like, it's a little late to be doing that, but you don't have to apologize. You don't have to say thanks. And he's like, it wasn't so much stepping in as getting my butt kicked. He's like, oh, okay. And so, yeah, then they grab a drink. And so Sasaki finally asks, he's like, why did we even have this fight to begin with? And he's like, well, I kind of goaded them. He's like, you picked the fight with them. He's like, yeah, they were bad-mouthing their own girlfriends. And that was the day I just had a fight with mine. So Kurosawa had a fight with his girlfriend, and then these guys were just trash-talking their own girlfriends. And he says, so I guess I couldn't help seeing myself in them, and it pissed me off, so I opened my big mouth. He's like, I saw too much of myself in them, and I got mad about it, and so I decided to tell them off. I wasn't thinking, I'm very sorry. I'll never pick a fight again. My girlfriend got really ticked about it too. And he's like, I like the Sasaki's like, I feel like it's more or less, it's not so much that you're sad that I got my butt kicked in this fight, but the fact that your girlfriend didn't like it. I also want to make note, again, talking about Given and kind of the relationships in there. I talked about how Shizasumi reminds me a little bit of Kurosawa. He does in this as well, because Kurosawa, in Given, Shizu's character talks both to Miyano, or talks both to Mafuyu and Uenoyama, the two main characters that are trying to be in a relationship. And in this series, Kurosawa often talks to both Miyano and Sasaki, who are maybe possibly trying to be in a relationship. So I feel like their roles are similar. It's interesting. And both of them are really, really devoted to their significant other. So I do hope that eventually Sasaki meets up with the girlfriend. I want to see her. I want to see this woman that absolutely adores Kurosawa. And so yeah, then we have the train scene where they share the little headphones. It's adorable, and they listen to similar music. Apparently Ogasawara and Sasaki listen to similar music, and they talk about borrowing CDs and everything. Sasaki is a CD burner. In high school, all I did was burn CDs, so I totally relate. And I loved making mixtapes and mixed CDs for my friends, so can relate to Sasaki here. But I love that how close they get, where they look at the lyrics on the phone and everything. It's adorable. I absolutely love it. And so yeah, I love this part where they're just talking about all the things that they like doing, like borrowing and lending books and seeing all the covers and things. And while Miyano's having this big ramble about borrowing and lending books, Sasaki's just like, God, I love him. It's like, but he's like, oh, did I just change the topic? And he's like, it's fine. I'm the same way with CDs. And so it's such a cute scene. It really is. And then we go to the final scene of the episode, and Miyano's like, oh, right, there's a bunch of new volumes coming out. Do you want me to go get them and, buy them? And he's like, oh, I meant to tell you. Like, you don't have to buy it for me. I went out and bought it myself. There was a new volume of the manga I borrowed before break that I really liked, and so I went ahead and bought it myself. And he's like, what? And I thought for a second that Miyano would be mad, because Miyano just got done talking about how he liked to lend books and borrow them. So I thought for a second that Miyano would be mad that he bought the manga, but no. Because he asks him, he's like, well, do you have a lot of manga anyway? Did you just buy it because you already have a bunch of manga? And he's like, no, I really liked the story that you showed me, and I wanted to find out what happened, and I didn't want to wait, so I bought it for myself. And that just shows that investment that Sasaki has to what Miyano likes, that investment that he has, where it's not just Sasaki liking manga that Miyano likes to be liking it. He's not just going along with it out of pity for Miyano. He's not just doing it because he's trying to lead him on. He genuinely likes the same things that Miyano likes, to the point where he went out and bought his own manga. and he wasn't just doing it out of pity or sympathy. And we don't know if Miyano's thought that, but it rules that off the table. And in that moment, he's like, oh, did I do something wrong? I just want to see what would happen next. And then that's when Miyano makes the face. That face of an angel that I'm going to take a screenshot of. That blushy face where he says, thank you so much. Because it's like the thing that we've been doing, things that we like, it's not just for pretend, it's not just for show. Like, you genuinely are being a nice person, and we do have things in common. And Sasaki's done! Sasaki.exe has stopped working. I really thought he was going home. I really thought Sasaki was just gonna be like, I'm out. Like, I'm head right out. But instead he just leaves. And he just walks right past Ogasawara. And we find out why. Because Ogasawara's like, oh, hey, good morning. Hey, listen to this. And he's like, later. I like this. I like that. I like that Oga's like, hey, listen to this gossip. And he's like, I can't right now. I gotta deal with this internally. And he's like, what do you mean later? I like that Oga's like, what? I like that Oga does not realize that they're in an anime. He's just like, no, but friends don't just say later. That's weird. What's up with you? I love Ogasawara. He's probably my favorite in the show. Such a hot mess. But then we get the thing with the title of the show. I don't want to make him uncomfortable. He's like, he's like, I'm waiting on him to give me an answer, but damn it, when he gives a face like that, and it's so adorable, and it's so handsome, oh my gosh, I was this close to wrapping him in a huge hug. And he's just so blushy, he's just about to, it's over. It's over for Sasaki. Oh my gosh. I don't know how much longer Sasaki's gonna last, y'all. He's been doing real good. He's been doing real good giving Miyano his space, but it's been like a month, hasn't it, at least? Our boy Sasaki, he is trying his best. And oh my gosh. Oh. And then we're going to episode 8. I have my rule of 8, y'all. I have my rule of 8. And I'll talk about it next episode, but usually the 8th episode in a series of 12 episodes is like one of the better ones. And so I'm very, very excited by what's going to happen in the next episode. Really excited. But that's usually what happens with the rule of 8, so we shall see. But this episode was adorable. It was so cute. I'm glad we got more with the president. I want more of him. We got to see Ogasawara. Always a good time. Got more Kurosawa. Always great. And Tashiro. But poor Sasaki, he is whipped for our boy Miyano and has no hope. So, and I like that Miyano seems to be slowly and subtly developing that confidence in himself where he's not so much concerned about what the other classmates think of him. And so that's going to be interesting going into this cultural festival and how that's all going to turn out. So I don't know, but I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. I loved this episode. This was great, but I'm really excited for the next one. So I'm curious to know what y'all thought down below. Please no spoilers. But in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back next week. So excited for episode 8 of Sasaki and Miyano. Bye.